Hi class, let's go over coding a residual condition. So we have acute renal failure due to a previous viral encephalitis. So using your ICD-10 coding manual, let's code that diagnostic statement. So the residual condition we have determined was acute renal failure. So we want to code that acute renal failure first. Our first step is to look up the main term. So in this diagnostic statement, the main term is failure. So we're going to start by going to the F's in our alphabetic index, and we are going to look up failure. So we see failure right here, and that will be our main term. So now we want to look up our subterms. So if failure is our main term, renal will be our subterm. So subterms are found in the first indentation, the first subterm, and then anything about that subterm, if there's more to be determined, will be indented under there as well. So we want to look up renal. So let's scan through, and it's in alphabetical order. Move over to the next page. Remember, you can pause this video to catch up with me at any time and then start it again. That's the beauty of a video. So here we find renal. Now, we also know that it was acute. So we've looked up the main term failure, the first subterm renal, and now let's find acute. So if you look under there, just a couple down, you'll see acute at N17.9. So now we're going to verify that code in the tabular list. We've been in the alphabetic. Now we're going to go to the tabular list and verify that N17.9. Now if you tabbed your books, you can get there pretty quickly. If not, it'll take you a few more minutes, and over time that adds up. So it's really important that you tab your books. So N17.9 is found here, and it says acute kidney failure unspecified. Well, we know from medical terminology that kidney and renal are the same thing. So that would say acute renal failure. So we found our residual condition for this diagnostic statement, which is N17.9. Now the second part of this is that previous viral encephalitis, and we know that's the cause. This is why our patient has acute renal failure today, because of a previous viral encephalitis. So we want to code that. Now let's look at our main term, encephalitis, back in our alphabetic index. So we want to go to the E's, and we want to find encephalitis. Encephalitis. So we find it here, encephalitis up here, and you notice it says continued. So I want to go back to the beginning just to make sure I'm starting at the beginning and find encephalitis. And then what type of encephalitis? It was viral. So I want to again start looking in my first indentation there for my first subterm, viral. I see viral at A86. Now I know it is not happening right now. They don't have viral encephalitis today. It was previous. So I want to look to see if I see anything about a history or previous, and I don't. So I'm going to go back in my index and check, make sure there's nothing back there that makes me need to add to it to tell the insurance company that the patient had it previously. They don't have it today. So I want to go back to the A's and look for A86. A86. So here we are at A86, and it says unspecified viral encephalitis, but it says nothing about a history or anything there, so I know that's not the right code, because if I sent that in, I would be saying that the patient has today unspecified viral encephalitis, and they don't. It's a history of it. So when you see previous, you can always go back into your, after you check that way, and look up history. So history starts here on page 275. And your history codes are going to be divided into a personal history and a family history. And it starts out as a family history. So I know that this isn't a family history of viral encephalitis. The patient actually had it themselves. So I want to flip over here to the next page where I see the indentation personal. So all the codes after there are going to be that the patient has had themselves. Any code before there in history is going to be a family history, a history of something that the patient has in their family. So we go to history, personal, and then it was encephalitis. So we're going to look at the first indentation, starting here with A, and we're going to find E for encephalitis. So there's disease. Let's see if encephalitis is under disease. Don't see it there. But it's over here under the E's for encephalitis, and it's code Z86.61. So Z86.61 is going to code that previous viral encephalitis. We found that again by going to history, personal, and then encephalitis. Now let's go to the back of the book and make sure we have the right code there. Z86.61 in the tabular. I know a lot of us, we want to quickly get that code and we want to stop when we find it in that alphabetic index, but there's many reasons why you should always come back here to find that code. So here we find it. Z86 is a personal history of infections of the central nervous system, and it gives you some examples, and one of them is encephalitis. See this little blue dot beside your code? If you look down here at the legend at the bottom, it tells you that code is unacceptable as a principal diagnosis. So we know that's going to be our second code. So Z86.61.